time is going so fast. This pregnancy was like a surprise. Once I'm down, I'm down. I've noticed the round ligament pain for sure. I don't know if I want to talk about this. Looking pregnant, feeling pregnant. If you don't know, like I lost my dad when I was really young. It's like the reality that something could happen to either Matt or myself. First trimester, physical deathbed. Second trimester, emotional roller coaster. I wonder what the third trimester is gonna be. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited that we are doing a second trimester recap. I also can't believe we're doing this video. I feel like time is going so fast and she's gonna be here before we know it. But without further ado, let's get into it. Guys, I am so happy with the second trimester. It has been so wonderful, especially if you were to compare it to my first trimester, which I was literally on my deathbed for basically the entire time. As soon as I got into the second trimester, I think that's what, 13 weeks, 14 weeks? As soon as the first trimester ended, I had no more nausea, no more vomiting, no more food aversions. I got my appetite back. I was eating more. I was gaining my weight back. My energy was skyrocketing. I had motivation again, and I was able to start my workout routine again, and it just felt so good because I felt like my old self pre-pregnancy, and this pregnancy was like a surprise. So I didn't have pregnancy in my mind at all, like mentally was not prepared for this huge change that was about to happen, and for me to like just feel like my old self and do the same old as I was before, it just felt really good. But basically in the second trimester, I would say that I started showing around 20-ish weeks. That's also when I felt her move for the first time. Like you could see the little kicks. Matt was able to feel her shortly after I noticed it. I didn't think it took very long for him to feel her moving. Now she moves like so aggressively. I don't know what she's doing, but she like somersaults and she just like moves everything at the same time. It seems like she's like durr, durr. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Or she'll be like, I'm like, geez. And she is very fond of kicking right behind my belly button, which I don't enjoy. She could literally kick anywhere and she chooses right behind my belly button. So I would say that like when I hit the 20 weeks, I started to show more and feeling her move. That's when it really started to feel like real. Like, okay, this is actually happening, because up until then, physically, I was just trying to survive. And I think it was really easy for me to just disconnect myself from the fact that I'm pregnant. Like, emotionally, I didn't feel very like, I hate to say it, but like excited or just involved emotionally. Like I was just very disconnected from it. Like I said, trying to get through misery of the first trimester. So now that I'm in the second trimester and it feels more real, I'm definitely noticing like more of that emotional connection, I guess. But I'll talk about that more later. I have been feeling really good physically. I would say the only thing is I've noticed the round ligament pain for sure, but I've only had it happen like a handful of times, really not that often. I usually trigger it on my own when I'm laying down and I laugh really hard. And round ligament pain is very sharp and intense. It feels like a foot cramp that just won't let up for about a minute, and then it like relaxes and fades away. With that being said, being horizontal and laying down is also not my favorite thing. It's so hard to move when you are horizontal. You don't realize how much of your core you use to move when you're like that. And when you're pregnant, you have to be careful about crunching and twisting your shoulders opposite of your hips. You really want your shoulders and hips to move like as a unit together. You don't want them twisting separately. So you're really using like your hands and your feet to like get yourself into position, which is annoying. Once I'm down, I'm down. I don't want to get back up. It's too much work. But honestly, that's the only thing physically that has been really annoying. I'm still able to work out really normally. I haven't made too many changes. I would say a couple weeks ago, maybe around 26 weeks, 25 weeks, I did switch from higher impact cardio to low impact cardio. Before, I was just like doing running intervals on the treadmill, and it's not like it hurts, but she is all below my belly button. She's so low, and it's not like pressure or pain. It's more of like a soreness that I notice after I have been running for a little bit, or even while I'm running, it'll just feel kind of sore all below my belly button. And because I'll feel like that soreness, I can't get myself to a speed on the treadmill for long enough for it to be like a really challenging cardio respiratory workout. So switching to the lower impact using like a cycling bike, it's been so nice. It's so fun. I've really been enjoying it. I'm still doing intervals, but it's so much more comfortable. I don't get any sort of soreness. I don't know what you would call it, but I'm able to sweat, and I'm really able to make those cycling workouts a true cardio respiratory challenge, which is what I'm aiming for. But I'm still working out the same amount, the same frequency, still trying to keep the intensity up. I would say one change that I've made to like the strength training aspect is doing interval training. So when you think about birth and labor and the pattern of like having a contraction and then resting, and then you have another contraction and resting, it's kind of what I'm trying to prepare my body for physically, like endurance wise, and also mentally, of being able to shift from doing a bout of work for a good chunk of time and being able to switch immediately into rest and recovery and making it a really meaningful rest period. Maybe getting into a different position where I can relax more, really focusing on my breathing and getting my body ready for the next set of work. So that's something that I've done a little bit different. It's been really fun, and I'm trying to keep up the momentum of motivation that I felt in the second trimester into the third trimester, because I know when you get bigger, you get more uncomfortable, your motivation kind of sizzles out, your energy dies, and you don't really want to do it. So I'm trying to just build the discipline and do it anyway. So that's a little bit about the workout stuff, but so far so good. I really haven't purchased anything in the second trimester for myself to like make it easier. I am such a minimalist person. I don't like to buy myself things that I know I'm not going to be using for a good chunk of time. So it's really hard for me to justify buying like maternity clothes. I have purchased, I think, 3 or 4 biker shorts in larger sizes to fit the belly a little bit better, where it's not so compressive. I am still able to fit into pre-pregnancy workout leggings and shorts. A couple pairs are getting a little bit, they're feeling a little bit tight. So I don't know if I'll give in and buy like a maternity legging to work out in, but I'm really trying to buy the least. I've purchased maybe a couple dresses to add to my collection, but it's really about it. I have purchased a few things for skincare. Around 20 weeks, when the belly started to grow, when your skin stretches, it'll itch a little bit, and luckily my skin hasn't itched unbearably, but when it does itch, I do like to moisturize it. It does help alleviate that need to scratch at it. So I've been using like the bio oil at night, which I wasn't sure about because it is an oil. I'm like, is this really going to be moisturizing? But I've really enjoyed using it and how my skin feels. I don't know if I want to talk about this. Luckily with the tatas, nothing crazy has been going on. Up until now, everything feels the same, looks the same. Haven't noticed any difference there, other than I noticed the nips looking a little dry. So I did incorporate like a nipple balm into my nighttime routine just to keep things moisturized. But that's about it, is the nipple balm and the bio oil that I've added to my nighttime routine. I do still get like very mild crampy feelings. I think they're just growing pains, but I've had those since like the first trimester, and they're pretty consistent, but they're not like bothersome, but they are there. But they're easy to forget about, but they are there most of the time. Also, I don't think I've experienced any sort of Braxton Hicks contractions. I'm honestly not sure how they would feel. Like, I'm not sure what to look out for. Like, I've heard that they feel just like really tight and they last for a brief amount of time, but like, how is that different than the round ligament? I know is round ligament because I like cause it to happen. If I get out of bed wrong or laugh, you know, like I cause it to happen. I always assume that Braxton Hicks kind of happened out of nowhere, and I haven't had anything like that happen to me yet. So I literally have loved the second trimester so much. I really hope I have a good experience with the third trimester, but it really is like the honeymoon trimester for sure. But I wanted to go back to what I was saying earlier about like how in the second trimester emotionally, like I feel more connected to being pregnant than I did first trimester. Looking pregnant, feeling pregnant, and it's just been a really weird shift that I wasn't really expecting. And as I talk about this, if you know me in person, if you're my family watching this, or just like you know me personally, like I don't want you to feel like I'm sitting here all day like sad, or that I'm like overcome with so many negative emotions, because that's not the case. It's just normal to, I think, have these emotional fluctuations, pregnancy hormones. If you don't know, like I lost my dad when I was really young, and so grief is something that I've had to live with my entire life. And having someone who's really important to you and that you love so much going through life events that they should be there for, that they should be making memories with you through, and that they should be experiencing with you, and when they're not, it's just really hard sometimes. And I always figured that like my wedding was going to be like the hardest thing I would go through. Like he's not going to be there to walk me down the aisle, like it's going to be really hard. And yeah, it was, but I think I've just been really surprised with the grief through pregnancy. And I do just want to say that like I've lived with grief my whole life, and grief isn't something that like goes away. It's just something that you learn to live with, and sometimes you feel it more during different life phases than others. And I mean, sometimes I forget about it, but I think it's the reality that I've experienced firsthand of like losing a parent. And now that I'm like, okay, I'm having this baby, like I'm gonna be a parent, it's like the reality that something could happen to either Matt or myself, and it's just created like a little bit more anxiety. Like I just think about it more. I'm like, oh my gosh, Matt went to work, like hopefully he drives safe, what if something happens to him? I really try to not dwell in thoughts like that because they're not productive. Nothing has happened. Like we can prepare for things to happen and be safe the best we can, but at the end of the day, like none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And I've just experienced that firsthand of like your life can literally change so quickly, and I think that just creates a little bit of anxiety. Although now I'm like emotionally more excited, like I wonder what she'll be like. I just wonder all the things now, but when before I didn't. And I feel kind of bad saying that, but now I'm just like thinking more about her as like an actual person. And with that excitement also comes like some of these more negative emotions, I guess, like the anxiety, and like grief too a little bit. But like I said, I'm not just sitting here sad, but it just crosses my mind of like something happening to us. And I haven't really heard anyone talk about like experiencing their grief through pregnancy before, so I just wanted to chat about it a little bit. There's also like this reality again with like seeing the belly and feeling her move and it feeling more real. It's also the reality of like we're transitioning to being parents, and I think that is like obviously exciting, but again, it's sad with the grief of like, okay, now I'm going to experience being a parent and feeling this crazy love for my kid, and I'm going to experience on like a much more deeper level the love that my dad had for me. And I think sometimes that can just be hard to think about. So although in the second trimester physically I'm thriving, emotionally I was just confronted with a lot as things started to feel real. And like I said, I'm not just sitting here like spiraling down like all these negative emotions, but they are real and they come and go sometimes. And I didn't notice this in the first trimester as much. I hope all of that made sense. It's really hard to describe emotions and just like the extent of what you think sometimes, but that's really been one of the more challenging aspects of the second trimester. First trimester, physical deathbed. Second trimester, emotional roller coaster. I wonder what the third trimester is gonna be. So just a little chat about the third trimester and leading up to birth so far. I do have my pregnancy gestational diabetes test next week. So hopefully all goes well. I get labs drawn next week, but really everything has been looking really good, really healthy. I'm very, very thankful that things have been smooth so far. My providers don't have any concerns, so we're just going with the flow. I don't think you have another ultrasound before birth. We did have the 20-week anatomy scan and everything looked good, everything looked normal. She was measuring overall 57%. Pretty average. I wonder how big she is now. I have no idea how they measure that without ultrasounds. One side note, one of you guys asked me if her moving wakes me up at night, and no, she has never moved in a way that woke me up. She moves when I'm trying to fall asleep, and honestly that doesn't bother me that much. I thankfully sleep very well. I've always been a really good sleeper, and it's very rare for me to not be able to fall asleep pretty easily. And I usually don't wake up throughout the night. I know some women say that they get up multiple times because they have to pee, and sometimes I do. I would say three, maybe 4 nights a week. Sometimes I'll get up one time to pee, but that doesn't disrupt my sleep. Like I just go right back to sleep and all is well. But she's never moved and like startled me awake. Hopefully that stays the same in the third trimester. I love my sleep and I'm trying to savor every second of it. I haven't really bought her anything yet, but I will share her first article of clothing that was actually a Christmas gift from my grandma, so baby's great-grandma. Great-grandma made this. Isn't it adorable? This cute little yellow cardigan, and it has a sweet little hood with ruffles on it. Grandma is a knitting master. Look at the little daisy buttons and the detail. I don't know how she does it. So freaking cute. She'll have to grow into it. I'm so excited to see her wear that. So my grandma, her great grandma, also knitted this little baby blanket. So cute. That's so sweet with a little smiley face button at the top. So cute. I have gotten some cloth diapers, which I'm just so curious about that I got some to try out. I guess the only other thing that we do have coming for her is her bassinet crib setup. That's coming. But other than that, we don't have anything. Some days I feel very overwhelmed by that, and other days I feel very like laid back. Pretty much, oh, just go with the flow. But I think I'm gonna have to step it up here soon. One last little thing I wanted to talk about as we get closer to birth is that I probably won't be sharing too much about our birth plan and more of like the medical care side of things, just for my own sanity, just because I've been getting so many more questions asking about my birth plan, if I'll have a doula or midwife or go all natural or have an epidural or what interventions I want. And everyone has their own experiences, valid opinions and thoughts about things, but not everyone communicates it in a supportive way. With the ridicule I got over my belly button piercing, I just can't imagine that on any other level, especially around birth. I'm sure people are more passionate about those birth-related topics, so I'll probably keep a lot of that stuff to myself. I'm sure that after birth and after I've experienced everything, maybe I'll talk about what ended up happening, because I know you can plan all you want, but things will probably not go to plan or as you expect, which is totally fine. So maybe I'll just do a video about what ended up happening and maybe what I was hoping to have happen in a way. I don't know yet, but I definitely want to keep that stuff to ourselves, but you know, still share the fun things about pregnancy or what I feel comfortable sharing. But I hope you guys enjoyed this second trimester recap. I can't believe it, and I'll see you guys next week.